Welcome back. In this session we're going to write more advanced queries. Until now we have not used any linguistic resources for the French or English language. So now we're going to see how we can use linguistic resources that have already been developed to create more advanced queries, more advanced grammars. So the basic idea is pretty simple. Let's say you want to look for all the occurrences of the word house, but you also want the inflected form houses, or you want to look for the verb to be. Instead of typing in house, pipe, houses, since you have used the English linguistic resources, remember when you selected info preferences, you selected the language. Now NooJ can look inside this folder to find some information about, for example, the vocabulary and how to inflect words. So what you have in NooJ linguistic resources, is a possibility to use what we call lexical symbols. What is a lexical symbol? So lexical symbol is a word which is actually a lexical entry in a dictionary, and this lexical entry has been associated with, for example, all its inflected forms. So you don't need anymore to write house, pipe, houses, because if we select English in info preferences, now NooJ will be able to look up the dictionary and find that these two inflected forms correspond to the lexical symbol, to the lexical entry house. In order to write this in a NooJ grammar, you have to use the angle brackets here. And it's the same thing for the verb to be. NooJ knows, because we have selected the English module, so now NooJ knows how to conjugate the verb to be. So instead of typing in be, being, am, is, are, was, were, we can now just type in be between brackets, and it will find all the inflected forms of the verb to be. So a lexical symbol matches all the forms that have been associated with the lexical entry. We will see how in a subsequent session. And this word form could be inflected forms or derived forms or variants, orthographic variants, etc. It's very important to understand that what you write between angle brackets has to be a lexical entry. So for example, if you type in tables between brackets, it will not match anything, because there is no such thing as an entry, lexical entry, tables in the text. So be careful, make sure that what's in the between the angle brackets is a valid lexical entry. So now let's say you use NooJ in association with a dictionary in which not only the inflected forms have been associated with each lexical entry, but also, let's say, the derived forms. For example, in that case, if you type in demonstration, and let's say demonstration is a lexical entry in a certain dictionary, and in this dictionary you have associated the lexical entry demonstration with its singular form and its plural form, but also with, for example, the verb to demonstrate, and its inflected forms, demonstrated, demonstrating, and why not, to another nominalization, demonstrator, demonstrators, and why not the adjective demonstratable. So if you have access to such a dictionary in which you have a lexical entry such as demonstration, which is associated with its inflected forms and its derived forms, and also the inflected forms of its derived forms, then you can use demonstration as a lexical entry. Demonstration between angle brackets will match all these word forms. But of course NooJ is not intelligent, it's just applying some linguistic resources, and nothing stops any user for building a dictionary, for example, in which you would have a lexical entry such as king, which would be associated with the form king, kings, and why not queen, queens, and why not roi in French, reine, tsar with its variant, tsarin, tsarina, etc. So if you have a dictionary, we will see that you can develop a dictionary that contains basically anything that associates any word or any term with whatever you want. And this will work if and only if, of course, king is a lexical entry, and in that case, it will match all these words. So this is an example for in French, where you have the verb manifester, to demonstrate, to participate in a demonstration, which is, of course, associated with its inflected forms, conjugation forms, but also manifestation and its conjugate and its plural form, manifestant, demonstrator, and its feminine singular, masculine plural, and feminine plural. And why not remanifester, to demonstrate again, with its conjugated forms, and manifestable, adjective, manifestable, plural adjective, and why not manifestabilité, the power of an issue which can be used in a demonstration, for a demonstration, which can be fought for a demonstration. And this is available, of course, for any language. So, for example, here, if you type in this Ukrainian word, it will match any of all these forms. So this is very interesting for languages that have a heavy morphology. The second enhancement that you can have with NooJ, the fact that NooJ can access linguistic resources, is syntactic symbols. So if we wanted to look, for example, for any preposition, the problem is, we have to make the list. This is not anymore required, because in NooJ English module, we have already the dictionary that contains all the prepositions. So there is a syntactic symbol, same thing, it's a syntactic symbol, but between angle brackets, and this, the prep syntactic symbol, is just an abbreviation for all the prepositions, all the words that are described in the dictionary as being tagged, as being associated with the code PREP. So we have basically preposition, but you can have also, we have an abbreviation for all the nouns, a code for all the adjectives, the verbs, the determiners, prepositions, conjunctions, etc. Note that these symbols are not NooJ symbols. They have been written, they have been associated with lexical entries in a dictionary, and you have to read the documentation of the dictionary to find out what are these codes. So this is not a NooJ functionality. So, of course, these abbreviations, these codes, will only work if you use a correct dictionary that associate lexical entries with these codes. So these are documented in the linguistic resources that are in NooJ. And you can, of course, make your own. So, for example, you could, make a dictionary of terms and invent new codes. For example, medic for technical medical terms, or politics, or you could have, let's say, a list of positive words, such as friendly, or negative words, or psychological verbs. So you are free to create any dictionary you want, invent new codes, and as soon as you have put this dictionary in NooJ, you will be able to use this syntactic symbol. The third enhancement to regular grammars is properties. So lexical entries are not only associated with a category, let's say part of speech, but also with properties. And of course, you can invent any property you want if you write your own dictionary. So you can define properties in a special file named properties.def, which is present in the, for example, the EN directory. So for example, here this line would say something like, nouns can have property NB, number, which has value either SING or PLUR. And from now on, NooJ knows now that sing or plural are valid values for the property NB. And this property is used for nouns. Okay? And this will be very useful when we will write constraints, lexical constraints, let's say to describe agreements. We will be able to say that a certain noun, if we take this noun and we look at its property, NB, we want it to be the same, we want to be equal, to be identical to the property NB of a verb. So this will be useful later. And we can, of course, combine lexical and syntactic symbols with properties. For example, we can write something like B plus PR. So this matches any word forms of the word B, of the lexical entry B, which have been associated with the code PR, which basically means present in the NooJ English dictionary. So plus means you have the property, minus means you do not have the property. So for example, this symbol means it will match all the word forms that are lemmatized or that are associated with the lexical entry cousin, and they do not have the property S. So S in the English dictionary means singular. So another way to write this would be cousin plus P. Cousin the plural. This here I wrote cousin minus S, meaning all the forms of the word cousin which are not in the singular. We can also use these properties with syntactic symbols such as noun, verb, determiner. So for example, this will match all the words that are associated with the code N, so nouns, with the property plus hum, so human nouns. This syntactic symbol will match any word form, any verbal form, because of the V, that are associated with the property INF, which means infinitive. So this will recognize any verb in the infinitive. And det plus P will match any determiner, any plural determiner. And you can combine properties with plus and minus. Plus means you want a property, minus means you do not want a property. So for example, N plus U minus F plus P would match any noun, which is a human noun, but it's not a feminine human noun, and it's in plural. This would match any verb which has property F, which is in French means future, which is not in the third person singular, and which is in the singular. Any verbal form conjugated in the future, which is not in the third person, but it's in the singular. So one first or second person singular. This would match any word form associated with the lexical entry cousin, but not the human ones. In French, cousin could mean your cousin. It could also be a mosquito, a special type of mosquito. And plural, you want to find mosquitoes, basically. And here, this in English would match any word form associated with the lexical entry have, but that are not in the infinitive, and they are in the singular. And if you have your own dictionary, let's say of technical term, you could perfectly associate all the technical terms of medicine with a code, for example, medicine, and then classify the terms in terms of disease, terms of symptoms, terms of counter indications. So here I want all the technical terms of medicine that are names of diseases, but I'm not interested in pneumology. So I just want diseases that are not associated with the code pneumo. So in order to recap, these are grammars that you can write with NooJ as queries. You remember text locate or corpus locate. So you can enter, for example, this grammar, this regular grammar, which will match any any forms of to be followed by any preposition followed by a noun. And you notice that there is no determiner here. So this would be this would match something like he was in pain. This here would match a sequence that is constituted by the verb in the gerund, followed by any number of adverbs, followed by a preposition, followed by an abstract noun. This would recognize bank or credit or debit or cash, followed by any forms of cards, so cash card or debit cards or bank cards or credit card. And this is a little bit more complicated. This is like a noun, a description of a noun phrase. So you have a determiner, and then you have at the end you have a noun, and between them you can have any number of adjective. So you could have the little red pen, and before the adjective, you could have also another adjective. It's optional, right? But you could also have another adjective which is preceded by the word very. So this grammar would recognize something like the very little red pencil. So let's have a little exercise. Let's say I'm interested in literature and I want to find all the occurrences in my corpus that are a little morbid, like that are related to the death. So go ahead, just click pause and I will give you the answer. Okay. So I have, for example, as an answer, this lexical field. So this will recognize all the conjugated forms of the verb to assassinate, to decease, to die, eradicate, exterminate, kill, obliterate, perish, strangle, suicide. And also nouns such as corpse, death, extermination, fatality, funerals, grim reaper, guillotine, massacre, mortality, widower, slaughter. Adjectives such as fatal, deadly, morbid, mortal, and also expressions such as kick the bucket, buy the farm, put somebody to death, wipe them out, for example. Remember that WF means any word form. So if we apply this to a text, let's say the portrait of a lady, we get corresponding concordance. So this is NooJ, this is web NooJ. So this was saved as a death query. So I want to congratulate you. So now you know how to write complex regular grammars and apply them to a text, to your text or to your corpus in order to produce concordances.